Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I wanted to share with you my entire interview and job process. If you guys have not seen, I am moving very far away from Massachusetts and I got a job. I got a job as an SLP, a speech language pathologist, and I am so excited and grateful to have a job. I will link the video right here in case you missed it. Anyways, this will be my clinical fellowship year. So I just wanted to share my entire experience applying to jobs, interviewing for jobs, selecting jobs, all of that fun stuff because it's information I wish I knew when I was going through the process. So in this video, I am going to cover 6 different topics. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe. I would love to have you guys. But let's get right into it.
Caught in an action, I can't rewind, and in my head I'm screaming, but out of my mind I'm still too young to feel this way.
Okay, so first, how I applied for jobs, because they are different than regular SLP jobs. This is your 9-month to 1-year trial period where you are out on your own and you're getting paid, but you're not a completely certified SLP yet. For the state that I will be working in, I applied for my provisional speech language pathology license. So that is going to go through, and that's just required of the state that I'm going to be working in. What I did was I used Indeed. This is not sponsored or anything, but I did use Indeed. So what I did was I made an account and I uploaded my resume. So you can attach your resume to different job listings. So I made a mini profile on Indeed, but then I also had my separate resume made. So I searched into the field you can use in the search bar. You can search what job you're looking for. So I typed in SLP CF positions, and you want to make sure that you're applying to CF positions because you don't want to apply to a full-time SLP position and you're not licensed yet, because ultimately they're just going to tell you that's not what they're looking for yet. And you really want to make sure that you have support as a clinical fellow because you still need it. It's your first year going out into the world, and any bits of advice and support are definitely going to be needed. So when I applied, like I said, I typed in speech language pathologist and CF position, or CFY, clinical fellowship year, and then I also typed in the area that I was looking for. So wherever you are looking, you can type in that area. And I was searching for a job in another state, so that was a little bit tricky as well because I wasn't familiar with the environment or really where I was applying to, but it is possible. I did do it. So anyways, and so I just found a bunch of different listings that I thought I would like. So while this is your CF year, you want to make sure you're applying to jobs that you like and that you actually can see yourself working in, and that the job description is characteristic of you or your abilities and skills, because you're going to be there for 9 months to a year. You're going to be getting paid to do it, and you want to make sure you can do it. All right, there's a frog in the background. So make sure that just because it is your CF year, you're applying to places that you like. There is also an option to add in your cover letter if you chose to write one. I actually didn't write a cover letter, and I wasn't actually applying to jobs anticipating getting one. I just applied to see what was out there. I had alerts set up to let me know when there were more job listings in that area that I was looking in, and I kept sending my resume. I just kept uploading, send. And eventually I was getting messages back for interviews. So on Indeed, there's a chat box or a way that they can message you. And so I set up my interviews through that. So I had time to meet, they would send me a Zoom link, or we would talk on the phone. So now going into the next topic, what questions I was asked. I wrote them down just so that I could share them with you guys because it is nerve-wracking going into an interview. Also, if you haven't seen, I made a video that I'll link here of tips and tricks to use when interviewing for grad school, but this also applies, and I use the same components when applying and interviewing for my CF position and for any job really. A lot of the same characteristics and components apply, and I still to this day use some of those same things. So I'm just gonna go ahead and list the questions that I was asked. What was my best day in clinic and what was my worst day? What do I think I could get better at? What area am I most skilled in? Tell me something that is not on your resume that I should know about you. What pay range are you looking at? Tell me a little bit about your experiences that you've had so far. And I had this question twice. What are you looking for in a CF supervisor? And what areas I thought I could benefit from support in? So those were the main questions that I was asked in my interview process. The pay one is one that makes people kind of nervous sometimes. So make sure you look up the average pay for your area so that you have a number going in and you have a standard that you want to set for yourself, because at the end of the day, they're still paying you. Okay, so going into the next topic, questions that I asked. So in the tips and tricks video that I mentioned prior, I say to always have a question ready. So I had several questions that I wanted to ask at each interview depending on what they told me, because if they had answered some of the questions I was going to ask, I came up with a different question. So I had different questions for each interview, but these were some of the ones that I asked. What is the dynamic like in your office in terms of support and among the staff? What is the management like? How many other speech language pathologists work there? This is more for school-based jobs, but do I work over the summer? And can I have my pay spread out throughout the year? What would you say is the best quality about this company? How much support do you provide clinical fellows and how? So those were some of the questions that I asked that I simply wanted to learn more about. And you can look at the job description and also what they're telling you to figure out what you want to learn more about. Okay, so now jumping into my personal interview experiences. So I overall applied to 3 different places and had 3 different interviews. So initially I wanted to work at a private practice and I applied to a bunch of different private practices, but then I accidentally interviewed at a school. So I took the interview because interview experience is experience, and I would always use more. So I interviewed at a school as well. The first interview I had was at the private practice. So at the private practice, they offered me standard pay, some benefits, and things like that. And throughout the interview process, I was just not feeling it. It just wasn't, you know how you get that feeling where you're just like, this is where I was meant to be, this is where I'm supposed to work and where I'm gonna make a difference, and I wasn't feeling that. And the person I was interviewing with was very strict, and she kind of tricked me into the interview because at first she messaged me and said, I want to have a phone call with you before I interview you and before we set up a Zoom call. So I was like, okay. So she sent me her phone number and I sent her mine, and she said to expect a phone call at this time. And so 5 minutes before the phone call, she sent me a Zoom link, and I was completely thrown off. I was not dressed, I was not ready, and she was like, I just want to have a little chat with you before I complete a full interview via Zoom. And so that's what I was anticipating. I got ready really quick, hopped on the Zoom, and it was like a full interrogation interview, which is fine, but you know, in the end, my best advice is to always be prepared. And I was prepared, but I had just had an interview prior that was on the phone, so that's what I was expecting. Anyways, always be prepared. So as I was interviewing, she asked some of the questions that I had discussed, and I told her about my experience, but like I said, I just wasn't feeling it. It seemed kind of strict and not very open, and so they did end up offering me the job, but I did not accept it and told them I wanted to wait a little bit, and that's when I kept applying to other jobs. So then I had the school interview. It was not an interview with the school itself, but it was a contracting company where the schools contract that company for services, whether it be SLPs, OTs, PTs, whatever service it needs. I applied to them accidentally, and I interviewed with them that same day as this private practice actually. So she had said, I want to talk on the phone, and we did the entire interview over the phone. Well, it ended up being the best interview I had had. She was so excited about my resume. She was saying how she felt like she found the golden nugget, the golden ticket in the bunch, and she was just so elated to have me and wanted me to join their team. It was just such a different vibe from the other interview I had had with the private practice. Long story short, what they ended up offering me was so many things that I couldn't turn down. And then I saw a listing for a third company, which was the same concept where it was a contracting company that the schools use for services, but this one had advertised relocation services and relocation support. And so because I was relocating to a state very far away, I was like, I can take all of the support I can get. I went on and I interviewed with them, and by this point the second job interview that I had with the school already sent me an offer letter, and so I was like, I just want to see what else is out there and just have something else to compare. So I had interviewed with this third company, and they didn't actually offer relocation services because I guess it's based on the area that you're moving to. So the area that I am moving to doesn't offer that support, which is kind of confusing. So I took the interview and still talked with the person. She was very lovely. Again, she offered me a job as well. So the 2 interviews I had with the schools just felt more open and had more support. Going into number 5, the next topic is which one did I end up choosing and why. And you can probably guess which one I ended up choosing, but I decided to go with the second one, the school, which is so ironic because I didn't think that I would be working in a school and I wasn't sure how I would feel about it. But just how things worked out with COVID in my grad school experience, I have had the most experience in schools because that was where people were accepting grad students and I needed the experience to graduate. So it works out just because I have had the most experience and I'm familiar with IEPs and things like that. But yeah, I ended up accepting a job at this company who I am still waiting to figure out which school I am going to be at specifically, because they're waiting for the school year to end to see which schools need what services. That'll be later and I can share more about that when I have more information. But they offered me so much I could not pass up. They offered me more pay. They offered a wellness package that supports your mental and physical health. They reimburse you for gym memberships, massages, and things of that nature. They give you a stipend, so up to a certain amount, which is amazing. That I love that they put your mental and physical health as a priority as well. They also have a student loan repayment plan that helps me pay back some of my student loans for as long as I am working there. They also provide benefits, which is great. They also have a lot of CF support, which is one of the primary reasons I took it, because you're going out on your own for the first time and you can use all the support you can get. So they had 3 different levels of support. They also had monthly meetings with other CFs where they connect you to CFs locally and nationwide, and you all do seminars and just learn a few more extra tips and tricks that will help you in your CF year. They also have people reaching out to me constantly. Every month somebody checks in with me. They also have a program to help you set up your licensure, which has been amazing because it's a lot of paperwork, you guys, and so to have somebody helping you with that is amazing. So those were some of the main reasons that I chose to go with this company. It was just all the level of support that they were giving me as a CF, which is definitely my number one, because the third company that I interviewed with was great, but they didn't have as many connections or levels of support that this second company did. Number 2, the pay is always good. You have to consider it because you want to make sure you're being well compensated, at least for the area that you're working in. And number 3, the student loan repayment plan, amazing. I will take any penny they will give me. Even if they said here's $20 for your student loans, I would take it. So that was a huge plus. And then also just having them prioritize mental and physical health just said a lot about their company. And the interview process was several different steps with them. So you met with one initial person who, if you kind of passed or they liked you in that interview, they set you up with the next person. And I ended up talking with each of the people on their team for almost an hour, just chatting, because our personalities clicked. It was almost just like we were hanging out talking on the phone. It was so relaxed and they were so excited and so willing to help me and support me, which was amazing. And to have somebody that really wants you and values what you have to bring to the table, how can you turn that down, you know? Okay, so the final topic is negotiation. Negotiating contracts and offer letters is intimidating because it's your first kind of real job, or at least it is for me, and that's my experience. So the third company I interviewed with, when they offered me the job, they offered different pay based on if I took their benefits or not. And so they gave me less pay with benefits or no benefits with more pay. I knew that I wasn't going to accept that offer just because they didn't offer as much support for CFs. But I went back to the second company, the one that I accepted, and said, hey, I interviewed with this other company and they're willing to give me this. What do you have to offer? They asked me what company I interviewed with. They were just like, oh, I'm curious who was the other interview with. And I told them, they were kind of saying, oh no, we offer way more support. You should definitely choose us. We want you to join our team. And so I was already going to accept the position, but it was nice to hear them fight for me a little bit. And you want them to do that. You want them to fight for you a little bit, because if you have skills you can bring to the table, show them off. So anyways, I went back and I said, I would like to not use your benefits actually, because I still have benefits available to me under my parents. And right now, when there's a few dollars an hour difference and you need all the dollars you can get, that is worth it. So I decided to opt out of not taking their benefits, and I said, would you pay me more? And so they offered me more, because later on next year, after I file and get my official SLP license, I will have benefits through their company and I won't be under my parents, and I'll be getting paid the full amount that SLPs get paid. Right now I'm not getting paid as much because I'm still a clinical fellow, if that makes sense. So I did that, and then I also sent the contract to my parents to review and for me to review in depth, because I wanted to make sure that everything we had talked about was on there. And so there was one thing missing. The student loan repayment plan was missing, and then the extra pay. So I messaged the person that I was in contact with and said, hey, these things are missing, and she said, no problem, problem, I'll fix that. And they sent me a new offer letter with everything that we had discussed included. It definitely is nerve-wracking to be the one calling the shots, but at the end of the day, if they want you, make sure you vouch for yourself and you advocate for yourself, because this is still your job and you don't want to settle for just any job just because you're a clinical fellow. You have a lot more to offer than you think, and a lot of places want new perspectives, which is what you're going to be bringing to the table. So just don't be afraid to advocate for yourself and stick up and say, hey, this is what I want. And I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason. So the fact that I happened to apply to that job on accident says a lot, and the fact that it was the one is just crazy to me. Anyways, I know this was a lot of information, but I hope that it was helpful for you guys. I wish I had this information when I was applying. So if this helped you out, make sure you give it a thumbs up and comment down below. I love getting to know all of you. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!